Are you thinking about starting a podcast for your interior design firm? Well, today's guest, Traci DeForge, is going to tell you why you should. Stay tuned. Hey kids, and welcome to Designed by Wingnut Social. I'm your host, Darla Powell, and today we are talking about something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is podcasting. The Wingnut Social, or Designed by Wingnut Social, as it is known today, podcast has been in existence in this realm, in this matrix that is our reality since 2018. And boy, was it a long learning journey, right? But today's guest, Traci DeForge of ProduceYourPodcast.com, helps interior designers, architects, all you guys, businesses, small businesses, in creating podcasts with a marketing strategy that actually gets you real results to help grow your business. And she is going to discuss with us today some of the strategies and methods behind that and why maybe, if you've been kicking it around, that you should think about doing a podcast. Don't want to be on camera? Don't worry about it. That's what she says. You're going to see why you don't necessarily have to change that or grow that podcast over to a YouTube channel, over to video. But we have, if you guys are not aware, Designed by Wingnut Social also exists on the YouTubes, which is the, as Traci says, the second largest search engine owned by the first largest search engine, Google. So we do that for a reason, but also because we like to show some visual aspects and get found by new listeners. Right? On Designed by Wingnut Social over there on YouTube. Click that subscribe button so you can get notified or watch all the new episodes, see the bloopers at the end. Sometimes you just got to see them to believe them. And if you don't like the bloopers, I'm so sorry. They're not going anywhere. I'm living my truth. All right, guys. So before I get into my conversation with Traci DeForge, I want to remind you that our Instagram for interior designers course is at wingnutsocial.com. We understand the importance of social media marketing for your interior design firm. We have clients that have been with Wingnut Social. We are a digital marketing agency for you guys, home pros, for 3 going on 4 years. And we have seen the growth of their firms over that time and the amazing, unreal power that social media has for helping to grow your interior design business. But we do understand that not everybody has the budget to allocate professionals to do that for them, for you, right? So we have an online on-demand course that will teach you how to build a marketing strategy on Instagram, how to develop content in such a way to get your messaging out there to attract your ideal clients and to be consistent, to show you what kind of content pillars you need to have in order to fulfill your value proposition, your positioning. What is all that? Well, check it out at wingnutsocial.com. Our Instagram for interior designers course will walk you through that, train you through that, show you what all that is, how to do it. And by the end of that, you're going to be an expert. And there's even a little certificate there. You can fly around and say, look at me, I'm a Wingnut Social Instagram expert after you take that course. And that's at wingnutsocial.com. All right. And also, if you need help with digital marketing for your interior design firm, Google Ads, search engine optimization, full service white glove, done for you right. Social media marketing. It's more than just throwing a picture up there and writing a cheesy caption, folks, let me tell you. And I have a team of millennials who do it the right way. Wingnutsocial.com. All right, guys, before we get into my conversation with Traci DeForge, you know the drill. With over 30 years of expertise in broadcast media, executive management, and Fortune 500 business consulting, Traci DeForge is the founder of Produce Your Podcast, a premier podcast consulting and production agency. Traci is renowned for business development insights that drive innovation. As CEO of Ladies Who Launch, she pioneered the franchise media model supporting women-owned businesses and also co-founded the Podcast Professionals Association. Wingnuts, help me welcoming Traci DeForge to the show. Hey, Traci DeForge, welcome to the show. How the hell are you?
I am very good. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm doing really, really well. And I'm super excited to be talking about this subject today, which is about podcasting, one of my favorite things in life, not only to do, but to consume. So I'm really super excited to pick your brain today on this topic for interior designers. Are you ready?
I am so ready. And it just coincidentally happens to be my most favorite thing to talk about too. So who knew?
Yeah. Well, we've come to the right place. We're just going to sit here and nerd out on everybody. All right. That's it. You guys can just go home now. So my podcast, I've been doing my podcast for Wingnut Social since 2018. And there's been a school of hard knocks there for sure. And I have done a couple of episodes on podcasting for interior designers to help your business, but nothing as in depth as I think we're going to get here. I think one of the biggest pushbacks or barriers to entry, whether it's mental or even logistically, is interior design is such a visual medium. Right. And audio podcast in particular, people have difficulty sometimes connecting the value proposition behind doing a podcast for interior design in an audio kind of way. But the one example I can think of that was done really well is Betsy Helmuth. I just had my veneer fixed, so I might lisp a little. Affordable interior design. She would take Q&A and all of that stuff on her podcast. So tell me a little bit about what you do, who you do it for, and the interior design clients. You do work with interior design clients. We're going to break down how it can be helpful for their B2C businesses.
Yes, absolutely. Well, just a quick snapshot. So my company is Produce Your Podcast, and we literally produce your podcast, and we do all of that from soup to nuts. And thank you for mentioning that. We actually have several interior design focused podcasts in our portfolio, some that we produced for 5 years, and some that have come to us in terms of we've launched and produced multiple interior design podcast. And then we actually have another client who has been doing a podcast for a while and just wanted to take it to the next level and wanted to move into more professional production. So she moved over to us. And so all of that to say that it is a really viable medium for audio, even though it is a visually focused content typically. But I think the best way for me to show you how it works is to do this. So I'd like for you for a second to picture a white elephant running through a chocolate river and deciding it needed to take a nap. So it goes to the side of the river and rolls in the dirt. So I could never produce that in video. That would be incredibly expensive because first of all, I'd have to dye the elephant. I'd have to create a chocolate river, and I'd have to create a dirty river bank for all of that to happen. Right?
Theater of the mind. Yeah.
Theater of the mind. There is no better way to really empower your vision around something than to use an example that really, so I don't know how many people just pictured a white elephant in a chocolate river, but that's how the power of audio works. So when you are primarily talking about content that has a visually compelling side of the story, the most important thing for you to remember is that you're having a conversation, first of all, and second of all, that you really want it to be a storytelling conversation. So if you are talking about this amazing decoration project that you worked on, and there's plaids and there's stripes and there's turquoise and there's pink and so you want to be able to use vibrant words and and have people be able to picture it, because their imagination is probably going to even be fundamentally more exciting than what you could create on your own. But that's not to minimize the importance of complementing your podcast with visual assets. And so I don't want to just say, oh no, you can tell a beautiful story about pink stripes and plaid and everybody's going to go crazy. You need to have really beautiful visual assets that complement your podcast. And that can be done by show notes with images in them on your website. That can be done by changing up your episode cover arts for each episode when you release them. Social media, you can record an audio and video and record and release video shorts. So there are ways to integrate the visual context of the messaging, but you want to just start with that really vibrant storytelling talent, if you will. And that talent can be honed too. That's not something that you have to be born with to succeed in.
You're answering all my questions that are in my head. I was like, that seems like there's a lot of media training, or people who are interior designers. We're not podcasters, right? I didn't start out as a podcaster. I was an interior designer. So there's a lot to learn there about setting up that journey for that story. And the question in my head was, how do you relay that? How do you develop that storytelling and that skill? But you had said, tell the story about the problem solving or something to that effect. And you could say you had Mr. and Mrs. Smith who had this issue in their basement, and just really be descriptive, almost like you're writing. Because when you're reading a book, right, that's an unlimited movie budget in your head.
Right.
Theater of the mind, right?
I love that. Unlimited movie budget in your head. Well, and here's something to really be confident about is that you wouldn't be the expert in your space. You wouldn't be doing what it is that you're doing and doing it so well if you didn't know your stuff. So I think that even more importantly than your ability to convey the images and the process and the problem solving in a way that creates that theater of the mind, it's also about the energy that you bring to the microphone. And that's going to come from your confidence as a very competent designer. So you can also do that through, you can go through and say, oh, this had avocado, tile. Of course, that might be back in style now, but we had like the 70s. Yeah, right. Somehow I had that intuitively. But at the end of the day, interior designers by nature are very creative people, and they are doing what they love, and they're expressing their creativity through their work. And you just have to think of your podcast as being an extension of that. So bring your personality to the mic and share your expertise. And if that feels like, okay, I'm still not 100% sure I feel good about doing that, then that's where you want to go into making sure that you bring on guests that can showcase your expertise. So whether they're client testimonials, sharing the story, or whether they're just, vendors that you work with, which is also a really nice way to also, get sponsorships for that podcast too. If you want to integrate guest appearances alongside, not in exchange for, but alongside a package that they get visibility in other areas. But then that way you're having a dialogue about something that you love, that you're passionate about, like we're doing right now. We're literally talking about something that we both love, and our energy is high. We're excited. We're having fun. And that's what the listener wants to hear. Because if you think about podcasting, 9 times out of 10, people are listening to a podcast with an earbud or AirPod or something like that. So it's a very intimate relationship that you're creating with your potential new client. And they really just need to like you to want to work with you. And that is, I think, there's no better way to just really engage that authenticity, which is a word I know that's thrown around a lot. But when it comes to your voice, it is truly something that is very difficult to fake. Yeah. And I think that's another reason why audio podcasts are incredibly powerful, because you're hearing that person's passion more than just seeing it.
I like the idea of the audio only podcast as well. We talked about being descriptive and setting up that theater of the mind and problem solving and setting yourself up as the thought leader and the expert, but also being kind of a foot in the door to lead listeners to the more visual aspects. Maybe it's your Instagram channel or your website, or what that looks like to work with you as a funnel. So what would you say to interior designers who might be resistant to do the podcast from a standpoint of, I don't want to give my secrets, or I don't want to give my design out. People pay me for designs, because the podcast itself doesn't just need to be a Susan McNugget's interior design show. That's the official designer of our podcast, by the way. It has to be some actionable takeaways for the listeners. There has to be a value proposition in it for them. What would you tell that interior designer who's afraid to give away the baby with the bathwater?
Oh, yeah. So I think of it a lot like with podcasting, for example. Like we're having a very informative, ideally educating and entertaining conversation around podcasting. I am absolutely an open book to answer any of the questions that you might have about podcasting and the benefits of building your brand through podcasting, building a profit through podcasting. But there's not enough time in the day for me to go so deep into my level of expertise that I feel like anybody who is a podcast expert listening to this is going to just totally, rip off my ideas. I think there's also just the literal mindset of that. I just think that you want to be able to showcase yourself in that very best light in as many areas as possible for people to, and this phrase is again used a lot, know you, like you, and trust you.
Mm-hmm.
People want to work with people they know, like, and trust. Referrals are fantastic, but they are slower than you being able to be on a podcast, especially if you're hosting the podcast, because you can control the narrative a little bit more in that way. And you get to really shine in a way that elevates you, not sets you up to have your ideas ripped off. Like, I think if you're going into anything with that mindset, the best thing I would suggest is to get in your car, drive over to the grocery store and go down the soft drink aisle. And then if that doesn't do it for you, turn around and go back down the diet and snack aisle, right? Because there's so many different choices of soda and there's so many different choices of snacks and diet options and things like that. And there's something for everybody. But how are you going to know which of those choices to select if you don't have more of a bit of a personal relationship or a personal insight into how they would work for you? And so it's just a lot of it's common sense. And people, if you're coming from a place of like holding all your secrets close to the vest, then you're going to be the best kept secret. And that's not always good for your bottom line.
Plus, the people that want to hire interior designers aren't about to do it themselves, right? You're just building that know, like, and trust in your expertise and authority in that area. And they're going to say, oh my gosh, I really love this interior designer. I'm not about to do any of this stuff that she just said she did for XYZ client, but I will hire. Well,
let me tell you something. Some of our best clients, and I think I mentioned one earlier, are the people who have tried to do their podcasts themselves. And then they came to us and we fixed it and made it even better for them. So there's also that possibility too. You just have to really be open-minded, open and willing, and just know that in today's culture, today's media, today's just everything about today is all about just being able to connect with people in a way that people feel connected back to you. And then I think something you also said that I don't want to lose track of is how important it is to be able to continue the conversation with them after the podcast. So they may get really inspired and energetic and excited about what they hear on the podcast or hear on your podcast, but you want to make sure you give them that opportunity to connect with you, whether it's, and we highly recommend integrating a newsletter or some way that people can get connected to you so that they can continue to learn from you, because they may not be in that place to do that project right now. They might just be in Pinterest mode right now, right? But they're going to get to that place, and you need to be in their top of mind and in their kind of hemisphere of shopping vendors, if you will. When they are ready, they need to think of you.
Yeah, for sure. So interior design is a big price tag. It's a huge price point, generally speaking, and it's a luxury. And your normal touch points are 6 to 7 before seeing things repeated in front of you through advertising or marketing before you decide to pull the trigger on it. For interior design, double, triple that, because it's just a longer relationship building process. So I really do love that. And I do love leading from the audio to your website to have a funnel to build that newsletter to, for this episode, here's the lookbook, or here's what we did for this project, and maybe have that be not a paywall so much, but maybe they sign up to receive that. There's just so many ideas there. So we're going to graduate now, because my podcast graduated. We started as audio, but now we are also on YouTube to the video aspect, which solves a lot of those problems.
They do, and creates others that you may not even think of.
Well, yeah. So let's talk about that. So if you're doing your audio podcast on video, and then there's a huge learning curve here behind all of this, folks. Let me tell you, it took me a long time to get any of my together on any of this. So I highly recommend delegating it to an expert. I have a podcast producer in-house, right? So I don't do all this myself. But on YouTube, when we talk about things, we can show the visuals. We can say, if you're watching on YouTube, here's the lovely design Susan McNuggets did, or here's my veneer popped out of my head. Right? So let's talk about elevating that. And how important do you think it is to have a video element to the audio, or do you not think it is at all?
Yeah, so that is not a clean cut, straight up answer. So I'm going to talk about a couple different things that you mentioned. First of all, I'm going to talk about It's not always an elevation, right? It's an option. So I think that that's the important thing, because some people literally are just not very comfortable on video, and it's the last thing that they absolutely want to do. However, YouTube is the second largest search engine, owned by the first largest search engine. So you want to optimize your visibility on YouTube. If you're not quite ready for the additional work, if you will, whether you have a producer or you're recording that on your own, it is a different recording process. You kind of have to show up. You have to have your makeup on. You can't, it's also something that is, you want to, what is your visuals? What is your background? Is not as portable, right? So the one thing I will say, though, is that there are so many great recording platforms. Like right now, we're using Riverside, which allows you to record in audio and video. And if you want to just release the audio, great. But we have the opportunity, because we're recording in video, we can see each other. We can see the little nuances. It makes our communication better. But what I would start doing is I would absolutely start with the audio podcast first. And here's why. You want, and this is for the lazy marketer. So if you're a lazy marketer, we're going to solve your problem. You record the content once, then you have an entire episode like you'll have today that you can have then a transcript of it. Then you can do a blog post on it. Then you have pre-written social media posts. Then you have one time of showing up and recording this content. You have audio on all the platforms. You have all of the social media posts, from one investment of one recording session. So if nothing else, start a podcast to make your marketing strategy a lot more efficient. Then graduate into video, and do that by starting with the video clips. So in this case, if you weren't doing a fully edited audio and fully edited video podcast, you still have this video. So you can have nuggets of the best tips that you can put out as YouTube shorts. You can put them as reels, stories, all of the things. So you're still able to optimize video for the marketing strategy, still very efficient part of that repurposing strategy, but you're not having to worry about all of the things. And the things meaning, if you want a fully professionally produced video podcast, you're talking about video opens, video closes, you're talking about lower third captions, you're talking about switching out B-roll in the background, which just feels overwhelming even talking about it. And you and I both have amazing teams to help us do this. But at the end of the day, it's not the quickest, easiest way to get your content out. Yeah. But that all being said, so those are for the people who are essentially wanting the quick fix and optimize some level of video in their marketing strategy efficiently. Then there's the full-blown video on YouTube, which you can also put on your website. And it does give you that visual context, that ability to have a really good video showcase. But what I really want to clearly communicate is expectations. Because most podcasts, even the large podcasts that get millions of downloads, may only get 1,000 views on their YouTube. So this is a really big, broad, vast discrepancy between millions of audio downloads and thousands of YouTube views. So if you're bringing that down to the typical branded podcast, who may only have anywhere from, let's say, 350 to 1,500 downloads, and that's, very focused, very niche focused, business growth focused podcast. If you're looking at that in proportionally, you may be only getting 40, 50, 60, 150 views. And you might get really disappointed really fast because it's expensive. So I am here to say, do the video, optimize it for SEO, have all the bells and whistles, do it at the pace and way that is best for you, time, resource, and bandwidth. But just monitor your expectations about how that's going to work out for you and what's the ROI that you're going to get from it.
I was going through a rebrand in my company and having a new website built. And I brought in Wingnut at around the same time and had them do a strategy. In that strategy, I found it to be really comprehensive and actionable. I, like probably many designers, find Instagram to be such a bear. I understand that it is so important. It is a visual medium. What we do is so visual, but it's an entire full-time job. And with running a business and actually doing design, it was just really not feasible for me to keep up that pace with Instagram if I ever wanted to sleep. So working with Wingnut, they have taken all of that off of my plate, which honestly is the most invaluable piece of working with Wingnut.
Yeah, I do love that. I would say that our audience on YouTube is a lot different than the audience for the audio podcast only. I find it's a little bit of a different segment, right? That maybe they don't listen to the audio. So we have broadened our fan base, I guess, for the show, but you're right. It is less than the podcast, the audio. Most people are jogging or walking. They're not looking at the YouTube channel. So they do to look at the visual elements. And we've actually gotten clients from YouTube who didn't even know it was just an audio podcast before. But yeah, I love that. And some of the biggest pushback that we get at Wingnut Social from interior designers is that they don't want to do video. Because we're a marketing agency, and of course, content-driven marketing is key, right? Which is what we're talking about. This is a big piece of what we're talking about. And they're not comfortable with video. And when I started my podcast, I was in a little guest house in my house in Miami, wearing a t-shirt and pajama shorts, no makeup, sweating because I couldn't run the air conditioner. There was no video.
Well, I may or may not have pajama bottoms on right now, but that's neither here nor there. But I will say though that I think again it's important what you're saying in terms of the visibility piece is why I advocate for video podcasting. I mean, if you read my bio, you know I'm an audio purist. My background in broadcast radio for 2+ decades. So I am slightly biased in terms of my true commitment, passion, belief in my DNA, the power of the platform of audio. Sure. But I do know that, especially in the 18 to 34 demographic, that YouTube is quickly replacing the time that age group is watching television. So that's not really a shocker statistic because people are coming off, regular television, like crazy. But it's also about discovery too. So I mentioned again that YouTube is obviously the second largest search engine. So you want to, even if you connect your RSS feed, so if you have your podcast hosted on Captivate or Libsyn or Buzzsprout or Simplecast, whoever you have your podcast hosted on, make sure that you're delivering your audio podcast to YouTube, and you can even activate your RSS feed on YouTube so that you are taking advantage of that opportunity for people to discover your podcast, because there are some amazing statistics that show like 73% of people will discover your podcast on YouTube, but they'll listen versus watch it. So you don't want to eliminate the platform by any means. And I just think I like the word graduate versus up level, because I feel like it is something that you move into, you get your degree in audio podcast, then you get your master's in audio and video shorts, and then go get your PhD in audio and video full episodes so that you're not overwhelming yourself, because consistency, and you are such a perfect example of this. Been doing this since 2018. Producer Podcast has been producing shows, including my own, since 2016. It is that consistency that drives the audience engagement and continued audience build out and audience growth. People are like, what is the fastest way to grow my audience? Well, the fastest way to grow your audience is to show up consistently, release consistently, and keep that energy behind the mic very high and very good quality content and quality audio and video.
That is hard to do, ladies and gents. Let me tell you.
I know, because everybody wants the magic silver bullet. Oh, should I get one of those bots to buy 50,000 downloads? Well, you could, but then it's going to really mess up your stats the next month. So no, don't do that. Just keep showing up.
Don't do that on Instagram either, just as an aside. I love it. So Traci, just a little bit before we get into the What Up Wingnut round of what it is like to work with you guys as a producer. Are you walking interior designers, let's just say that's our audience. Are you walking them through the whole process? Are you telling them, here's the microphone you need, here get a little, Zoom recorder and just send us the raw audio and we take it from there? Right?
Oh, girl, no. We are now. We got the PhD in podcasts.
Okay.
So we are full service, and full service by our definition is that we are going to, if you already have an existing podcast, we're going to bring you in and we're going to audit your existing podcast, and we're going to find all of the things that are working and find all of the things that aren't working, and we're going to up level you, and then we're going to pull you into our cadence of recording. We prefer to, and most of our clients record with a live engineer in the studio. There's absolutely so many benefits to that. If your guest is having tech issues, if you're having tech issues, so you have a live engineer that's helping you moderate that. We do make recommendations, and actually, in some cases, if needed, source and ship the equipment to you. So we're big advocates of you having the recording session with the live engineer, because it's like having a personal trainer. Like, you're more like, talk about that consistency factor. Like, you're more likely, if you join a gym membership, you might go. If you pay a personal trainer and you don't show up, you're still going to pay, right? So you need to show up to the personal trainer, plus your results are better. So it's a lot like that mentality. So we have, but all of that to say, so our biggest differentiator that makes us more powerful as a podcast producer is the fact that we approach everything from the business development perspective. So we are going to build a beautiful podcast in broadcast quality. We're going to work with you on the format. We're going to work with you on all the things that you expect that a podcast producer would. But because of our decades of business development strategy, decades of working with specifically women entrepreneurs, helping them start and grow businesses. Our business development strategist is someone who worked and scaled businesses online. So we're going to look at every podcast as a way to grow your bottom line, grow your brand, and also monetize the podcast either through your own products and services or sponsorships or combination of all of those things. So we have two focuses: broadcast quality production, we do all the heavy lifting. So you literally just have to show up and record, and we do all the marketing assets, show notes, graphics, promos, all that. But with a focus on how is this podcast going to make my business profitable, and how am I going to get an ROI from my podcast? Because
Love it.
It's one thing to have fun. We're having so much fun, but we're still running businesses, and that focus needs to be there. And that's how we build the bridge.
Yeah, everything's got to have ROI. I mean, but the beauty of it is that we're having fun while we're doing it.
Which is say it's not hard the work. Best. It is. It's hard work, but with the right strategic partnership. And I think that's what, yes, we're a podcast production company. We're a marketing agency. We do all those things. We do them really well. But we work with clients 3 years, 5 years. Like, we have relationships that we build because they trust us to know that we're doing what's best for them. Because it's not a cookie cutter formula. It's just we create a strategy that works, and we continue to refine it and hone it as they grow.
Yeah, that's what we do here at Wingnut Social as well for our marketing clients for digital marketing.
Yes.
We have those interior designers who have been with us 3 going on 4 years because we grow with them and we adjust their strategy. So I love that. I love building that relationship and having someone basically on your team, right, without having a W-2. To do your podcast. That's terrific. I love it. Yeah. Okay, Traci DeForge. Now I have to ask you, are you ready for the What Up Wingnut round?
I am ready. I think I'm ready. Okay.
What would the hashtag on your tombstone be?
Hashtag died trying. And but I mean that in a really positive way, because I am always trying to be better. I am a huge believer in personal growth. I'm always trying to be better, do better, be better person. So I will die trying to be better.
I love it. Are you a Taurus by any chance? What sign
Aries.
are you? Very close. I'm the same. I never give up. Never.
Ramble.
I'm full of bull and you're a ram. I got it. Yeah. You're stuck on a deserted island, but you can have your favorite food forever. What is it?
Oh my gosh, anybody who knows me would be able to answer. If we were on a show and we had an audience of people who know me, they would say cheeseburger and French fries, always to the end.
Girl, same.
Really?
Cheeseburger and French fries.
I love
yes.
it.
Although that might be changing to beef Wellington. That's it's in, yeah, that's one of my favorite
Well,
things
I
ever.
kind of think you should be able to just have meat and potatoes, whatever variation of that is. So steak and baked potatoes, cheeseburger fries, roast beef mashed potatoes. Like if you could just have the meat and the potato and make it all different ways, I'd be fine with that.
I like the cut of your jib. Okay. Last but not least, please recommend a book that's impacted you on a personal or professional level.
Oh, there's so many, but if I had to choose one, I would absolutely choose The Artist Way by Julia Cameron. It is just, it hits me on every level. It helped me understand what a shadow artist was, because I've always worked in the business development side of creative industries, even starting my own paint and destination retreat business for paint and plays and sip and paints. But my business partner was a fine arts painter. I was on the business and management side of broadcast radio for years. I run Producer Podcast. Like, I've always ended up on the business side of creative businesses. I love creative entrepreneurs. And, but then also too, like the morning pages that Julia Cameron recommends in The Artist Way. If you haven't read it, I say, get it, read it, and start doing the morning pages tomorrow, because you have to do them in the morning. So if you're listening to this in the afternoon,
makes sense.
they have literally changed my life in very significant milestone ways over the course of the last 20 years of knowing, like probably 12 years of knowing about them. They're my go-to if I feel stuck or I'm just in the
morning papers.
Morning pages. Yep.
Morning pages from The Artist
Morning
Way.
pages. Julia Cameron, The Artist Way.
This is so random, but have you ever worked with Phil Hendry?
I have not.
Oh, okay. He's one of my favorites. I was just hoping to hit something there random.
I would love that. Well, but now I will absolutely look him up. So what does he do exactly?
So I've been listening to him since the 90s, right?
Okay.
And for early, I don't know if you remember WIOD in Miami, and he does theater of the mind, actually, kind of. He does a show. It's almost like a one-man show where he is all the characters, and he calls in his people and talks as the characters and creates these crazy
love that.
scenarios and situations. And he is hilarious. There was just a documentary about him on, I forget, I think on Prime Video. It's called Hendry. He's just superb. I've been listening to him forever. And that's kind of what got me interested in doing podcasting. This is an aside, not even necessarily part of the show, because I've been listening to broadcast radio, him, Neil Rogers, WID, just forever. So anyway, he's one of my heroes. I love Phil Hendry.
Well, I'm going to look him up, especially if there's a documentary. Like, I'm literally look over me. I'm writing it down right now, because if it goes in my book, then it happens.
Phil Hendry, HENDRIE, highly recommend. He's insane.
It sounds like that he should do a podcast with Julia Cameron, and it would be mind-blowing.
Well, Traci DeForge, thank you so much for spending this time with us today. Please tell the audience where they can go to find out more about you and produce your podcast.
Yeah, so the absolute best way to connect with me is to go to produceyourpodcast.com. There's places you can fill out a contact form. There's places you can opt in for newsletters. There's places you can book a call to just continue this conversation, because I would love to talk to you about podcasting just like we've talked today. But produceyourpodcast.com, you can just find all the things and see all the things.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us, Traci. This has been a treat.
Yes, thank you. It's been so fun.
All right, so if you've been sitting out there on the sofa watching other people's podcasts, watching Designed by Wingnut Social on YouTube, thinking, I could do that, what's stopping you? Get out there and do it. And if you're overwhelmed by the learning curve, and it is hella steep. I have a whole studio here that I learned by going on the Googles with lights and professional cameras, and I have a producer in-house. Let me tell you, if you go back and listen to some of the older episodes, you realize that was not there in the beginning. Anywho, I'm rambling. Get out there and start a podcast, start an audio podcast. Either do it yourself, learn it the hard way like I did it, or collaborate, hire someone like Traci DeForge at produceyourpodcast.com, or have an amazing in-house producer like we do here at Wingnut. Nicole Lyons, shout out to you. We love you very much. You're the best. All right, guys, that is it for this week. Remember to head on over to wingnutsocial.com and chat that let's see how we can work together button or let's chat button. that whatever button that looks like in order to talk to us to see how we can work together to help you market your interior design firm, your architect firm, or maybe you're a maker, a manufacturer, maybe you're a Korean company, maybe you sell to interior designers, right? That's what we do. We help you guys grow your business through social media, Google ads, social ads, SEO, and very elaborate smoke signals. Wingnutsocial.com. That's it for this week. Remember, until next time, but get out there, get uncomfortable, and be great. Are you thinking about starting a podcast for your interior design firm? Is it worth it? Will you get clients from it? You might be surprised at those answers. Today's guest, Traci. Stay tuned. I think I just blocked my whole camera. I have been doing podcasting since I turned up my levels right over here just for this last 30 seconds because I couldn't hear myself. I don't know why I did that. It's probably too clipping, or am I too loud? Was I coming in too low? Did someone hit my button? Probably. Damn it. All right. So if you've been sitting out there on the sofa watching other people's butts